Hello and a very warm welcome to our Employer Masterclass from the Change in Education Group. This is an excellent opportunity for employers to give you, the students, a real insight into the world of work. Today we have a special presentation for you in how to prepare for an interview. Welcome, my name is Amos Madra, Careers Advisor and the host here at the Change in Education Group. Joining me today is Katy Kurn, who is the director and founder of Show Off Communications Limited. Katy, affectionately known as Communicaty, has years of experience in business communications. After being in the communications industry since 2009, she has seen a lot and learned a lot along the way. The best ways to engage with people through the power of written communication and how to use engagement psychology principles to radically change business performance for the better. How good does that sound? Katy, a warm welcome to you, and how are you doing?
I'm fabulous. Thank you, Amos. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. And of course, as I mentioned, we've got a special session today, more to do with how our audience can prepare themselves for that interview. So I've got a few questions here set for you already. In terms of preparing for interviews, how can people prepare mentally?
Yeah, so I'd say preparing for an interview comes into two camps. You've got the mental preparations, but then you've also got the practical actions that you can take. Mentally, interviews are a strange thing. As soon as you know you've got an interview, your brain will go into flight or fight mode. So you will, first of all, maybe not want to go to the interview because you'll be worried. You'll play through scenarios in your head. What if they ask me this? What if I can't answer? So actually what you've got to do is take a step back and remind yourself about A, why you wanted the job, and B, why they've offered you an interview. There's something in you that they have seen where they think, yes, we want to interview this person. So a lot of the before stuff is about getting yourself ready mentally in the sense of keeping calm and reminding yourself, what are your skills? What are some great things that you've achieved? You might not have the biggest work experience, but actually at school, at college, you may have created some amazing projects that you can talk about. You might have had teamwork that you had to be part of, that you can talk about that. So it's just about taking that time just to calm yourself down and work through it in a practical way. On the practical side, the biggest tip I always give anyone is research the company that you are going to be interviewed by. It's something that as an employer, it goes a long way. If someone can come in and talk about the values of the company, which generally will be on the website. So you can just spend even half an hour just having a look through the company website and just really getting to grips with what does that company stand for and what are their values and what do they look for in employees. You can then talk about that in your interview, and that's a great place to start with your preparation.
Fantastic. And I like that you can go and do some research and make sure you understand what the company is, the values and the ethos, and the history as well, so that you can reflect on it. And also you could also see how your own skills can contribute towards that company's success. And I think, like you said, just being prepared is so important. How important is time management in terms of when you get there and also prior to the whole interview itself?
Oh, it's crucial. It's crucial. I mean, I'm a bit of a punctual patsy anyway. I'd rather be half an hour early than 1 minute late. And I think that kind of mantra is much better to think of when you're thinking about interviews. You don't have to, I wouldn't advise to go into the reception for your interview half an hour early, but allow for every eventuality, allow for tubes breaking down, for trains not working, for buses being delayed, for your taxi not turning up. And I would say give yourself a comfortable half an hour free to be able to get there on to, half an hour early. That to me is the best thing to do, because you can sit outside, you can wait, and then you can glide in 5 minutes before your interview's due and just be really, really punctual. Yeah, it doesn't create a good impression if you're late. If there is some crazy situation that you couldn't have seen was going to happen, make sure you've got the contact number of whoever it is that's interviewing you or the building that you're going to. Call ahead and make sure they know that you're going to be late, and more importantly, why, and whether it needs rearranging or whatever. The biggest thing here, surprisingly for me, communication. That's what it's all about. You know, employers aren't ogres. Sometimes things will crop up, something unexpected will happen. The main thing is to communicate that.
Yeah, really important advice there again. Do you think it's too much doing dummy runs the day before?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I have zero sense of direction. So I do about 8 dummy runs. Yeah, I think, you know, if it's not going to put you out of pocket too much with the cost of travel and everything, absolutely. Or you can even look on, you know, Google Maps and look at the route and make sure you're clear. I like to use Google Earth because you can drop down into the street, because I've had interviews before when I was working in corporate world and it was in the middle of London and it would say a street, but the buildings are so tightly packed, you couldn't always work out where the building was. So I would always do my research beforehand so I knew exactly where I was going.
And that's you know, what's the saying, plan to prepare or prepare?
It's prepare, fail to prepare, prepare to fail.
There we go, couldn't have said it any better. Excellent. And I suppose as well, you know, during warmer times such as we have now, it's pleasant, it's nice outside. You know, like you said, you can just have a sandwich, a drink of water, sit outside and relax, and not overdrink that water as well.
Yeah. And it's also getting there that bit earlier. It's also a good time if you print it out or you've made any notes about things that you think, examples that you really want to cover. It's a really nice time to just, again, calm yourself down and give yourself that refresher. You can have a look through your notes. You can remind yourself, pop onto the website again. Just giving yourself that time. You'll feel panicky on the journey. You'll be nervous. Once you're there and you know you're safely there and you're waiting outside or you're in a coffee shop down the road, just, again, use those 30 minutes just to give yourself a bit of extra prep time.
Definitely. And I know that this sounds, you know, would you advise eating before you go for an interview? Some people like to be not too full. Other people need to eat something. What would you say?
Well, ideally, it depends. Well, it depends when the interview is. I mean, I would always have to eat because, you know, food is the fuel for the brain. And if you are wanting to go into an interview feeling focused, then absolutely, at least make sure you've eaten something within a couple of hours of going to your interview, because going on an empty stomach and maybe just downing loads of caffeine is really not going to do you a world of good when it comes to being focused with your answers. So yeah, just plan your day. If you've got a lunchtime interview, make sure you've had something mid-morning so that at least you've eaten something and you don't have the horror of the tummy rumbles when you're sat in an interview, because that will distract you. That's happened to me before, and it was really distracting for me because all I was thinking is, oh no, it's going to happen again.
Yeah, definitely good advice. And you don't want to be too bloated as well, where you can't concentrate.
No, where you want to fall asleep.
So get the balance right. Okay.
Absolutely.
And that goes the same for drinking any liquids as well, whether caffeine or water.
Yeah, just take it easy. The body and the mind will go into, particularly if it's a job you really, really want, you will go hyper alert and you will be twitchy. And the natural thing to do is to fiddle. So you might get a drink and keep swigging at your water. And yeah, it's about just calming yourself and just trying to get into that calm state, a bit of deep breathing. Just if you're sat outside, have a look at the environment and just keep yourself as calm as you can.
And how about the sort of attire that you should have for an interview? Should it always be formal?
Generally, it depends on the company. Most companies, in my experience, will state in the interview letter what the dress code is. If they haven't, then I would always contact them and just ask them. It is natural to assume that it's formal dress wear, but there are some companies, I remember, I'm sure it was Google back in the day, where if you turned up in formal dress wear, that was actually a bit of a no-no because they were very casual. So if it doesn't say it on your interview letter, don't be afraid to reach out and ask and say, is there a dress code for the interview? And they will tell you straight away. If they say, no, just come as you feel comfortable, I would go on the smarter side, just to be on the safe side.
That's excellent advice. I mean, who would think of calling the employer and asking about the dress code? It's not something that we usually think about.
No, but it's all these little things. It's all these little things. As an employer, it's all those little things that will help solidify a decision. People think it's all just about the interview questions. It isn't. It's about everything that surrounds the whole process.
Incredible. That's fantastic advice. What other tips would you suggest for someone to do in order to prepare as best as I can?
So I think actually one of the biggest tips that I really wanted to make sure I shared was actually for in the interview itself, because I had a long career interviewing people for call centre work, and traditionally that was, kind of young people. A lot of them, it was their first job. And the absolute terror that they had in the interview. And it was mainly down to feeling that they had to be able to answer a question straight away. So the question was asked and you could see they felt under pressure to answer that question immediately. And not everyone's brains work that way. You ask a question, sometimes you need to just take a minute and just think, okay, how do I want to answer this? So one of the tips I always used to give people when I did interview coaching was, when you go in, generally you will be offered a drink. Most people say, no, thank you. Always say yes. Ask for, yes, please, I'll have a drink of water. When you're in your interview, have the water in front of you. If you're asked a question and you need to just take that little pause, take a sip of your water before you answer. Just that little bit of time just gives you a few moments just to get your head straight and to think about what you want to say. Or don't be afraid to just say, can I just think about that? Or can I come back to that question if you really want to think about it? But the water trick works a treat.
Yes, excellent advice. Again, not having to give that answer immediately, but just to say, can I come back to you with that one?
Yeah.
Again, it shows that you're really considering what's being said and you're taking time to ponder, reflect, and think about the answer that you want to give back. And
exactly.
That you don't know the answer, but
no.
It's just that you want to prepare the best answer that you can give.
Absolutely. Interviews are not quick fire quizzes. It's not Mastermind where you're up against the clock. The whole idea of an interview is it's a two-way conversation. Granted, interviewers will have set questions they need to ask you so that they can make sure they're being fair to everybody that's interviewed. But actually, it's more about them just getting to know you. It's not a quiz. It's not up against the clock. So relax into it and just take your time.
Yeah. How do you take away that pressure of, sometimes it's not 1-to-1, it could be 2-to-1, in some occasions 3-to-1, which can be a bit intimidating. How do you turn that around in your favor?
Yeah, so generally one thing to remember is, again, it's not there as a trick. Generally there will be, if there's more than one person in an interview, it's to make sure that it's a fair process. So sometimes just knowing that can help people, because I'm sure it happens very rarely, but everybody needs to be treated in the same way in every interview. They need to be asked the same questions and they need to be given the same courtesy and respect. Having two people there just ensures that happens. The way to get over it once you're in the interview is sometimes in an interview, one person will lead with asking all the questions, the other person will write all the answers down, or sometimes they might tag team it and one person will ask one question, someone else will ask the next. I always say, focus on the person that's asked you the question. Don't worry about the other person unless they then ask you a follow-up question. Then turn your attention to them. Just deal with the person that's asking you the question. Don't try and look at everyone and try to talk to everyone, because you might look at this person and they're busy writing and then you start thinking, oh my God, they're not even listening to me. So just talk to the person that's asked you the question.
Excellent. And again, rather than putting the attention on yourself, put it onto why you're there in the first place and what you're offering to that person.
Yeah. Look at it as it's an opportunity. You know, every interview is an opportunity. Some interviews will go better than others. The most important thing is what you gain from it. You will gain experience of being asked questions. The questions will always be about you as a person, your personality, your skills, and also requirements of the job. So there'll be, if you're going for a customer service job, there'll be questions linked to customer service. There'll be questions linked to complaint handling. There'll also be questions about how you integrate as in a team, or if it's working on your own, how you manage your own workload. So yeah, it's just about taking that time to think through the job. What are they likely to want? And you can get a really good view of that from the job advert. Have a look at the job advert and see what the skills are that they've listed in the job advert. Those are the ones that you want to get your examples ready for and the things that you want to talk about. But yeah, it's so many people put so much pressure on themselves for interviews, and it's not a personal thing. This is about them finding the right match for the job, but also you finding the right match as an employer. So actually it should feel very two-way. And I think that's something that people forget. An interview is a two-way process. It's not just about them deciding if they want you. It's about you deciding if you want to work for them.
That's really good advice again, isn't it? It's not just that they're trying to give you the job, but also you want to assess them and see if it's the right fit for you. And
absolutely.
It's taking that pressure away from yourself, because you know, you just see in the news that there's no jobs and young people are struggling, and it's just negative, which can put anyone down. And when they get an opportunity, all they're thinking is, I don't want to mess this up. And straight away, you're on the back foot there, aren't you? But
yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you one thing that is always entertains me. People are so scared of their interviews. They get asked questions. They feel under pressure. There is a section in the interview towards the end where you will be asked if you have any questions for the employer. A lot of people will ask, when will I hear about the job? How many people do the job? Things that really don't matter. My advice is, ask them a question about what it's like to work there. So ask the employer, ask the interviewer, what's your favourite thing about working here? And I guarantee you will see the same look of fear on their face that they've probably given you through the whole interview, because everyone feels under pressure when they're asked a question that they didn't know was coming. So use that as an opportunity to actually find out whether it's a company you want to work for. You know, ask them, what are you hoping to achieve as a company in the next 2 years? Find out where the company's going, what they want to achieve. What's the progression opportunities? And yeah, you will see a little bit of fear cross their face, because everyone's the same, whether you're interviewing or whether you're being interviewed. It's daunting. So don't run away from that feeling, because it's natural. Just lean into it and just do the best you can.
You've shared some excellent advice here with us today. I think there's so many good things for our audience to take away from them. Just to ask you this one once more, what can they do to really stand out from the rest of the crowd? What can our audience do?
You have to show why you're different and why you're the best for the job. And that will come from your experiences. Everyone will say, I'm punctual, I'm a great team player, but it's your experiences and your examples that set you apart. So spend time thinking about what you can talk about from your own experience. You don't have to have had 10-year career experience. You can talk about sports teams, you can talk about school projects, you can talk about anything like that, even family life. You can talk, everyone has got some amazing examples that they can share. And that is what they're looking for. They're looking to get to know you. They're not looking for you to just reel off a list of qualities and skills. So be yourself, talk about your own examples, and just have faith that they wanted to talk to you. They wanted to interview you. You're there for a reason. So just embrace it and enjoy it.
Excellent. Nearly coming towards the end. What do you look for in a candidate when you're conducting an interview?
I look for somebody, strangely enough, I don't look for the most confident person. I don't look for the person that can speak the best. I look for somebody who stands in their, I call it standing in their own power. So even if they haven't got experience of something, if they can say to me, I haven't done that before, but if I was given the job, I would be committed to learning how to do that. That to me is really impressive. So it's about what we were just talking about being confident and standing in your power. Don't be afraid to say you haven't got experience of something, but give that commitment. So that's what I look for more than anything, is somebody who stands firm in their own power and can confidently talk about things, even if they don't know how to do it yet.
Yeah, a willingness to learn and
absolutely
keen to grow with the organisation.
Yeah.
And especially with our young audience, that's something that all employers are looking for, the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like someone who approaches an interview with a well-rounded approach, as I was talking about at the start. Someone who's taken the time to do the research on the company, someone who's taken the time to prepare based on what they've seen in the advert. Someone who is stands in their own power in the interview, and actually afterwards, I love it if the people I've interviewed connect with me on LinkedIn and just say, thanks so much for interviewing me. It was great to meet you. That to me is impressive, because it's not just a case of this could be any interview. You know, they've taken the time to connect with me afterwards.
This is some excellent advice. You know, just taking the time as well to connect, and social media just shows that, hey, you know, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, it's been great to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll certainly have the interviewer's attention. What final words would you like to leave our audience with?
Don't be afraid. You know, it is scary, and because you feel daunted, because you feel concerned about an interview, because you feel scared, that's normal. You know, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't go. It doesn't mean that you will do any worse in an interview. Nerves will fuel you. If you talk to any top athlete in the world, if they don't feel nervous before going into something big, then it doesn't matter to them. So nerves are very close to excitement. So instead of thinking, I feel nervous, think, I feel excited, and look at this as another learning experience. Whether you get the job, whether you don't get the job, you've learned, you've had a part of an interview, and you've learned something that you can take into the next interview.
Fantastic advice. Katy, thank you so much. Katy Kurn from Show Off Communications, sharing her knowledge and experience with us in how to prepare for that interview. And one thing that stood out for me is prepare, and of course, make sure you're confident in what you do and stand in your power. How good is that? That's absolutely brilliant. So thank you very much indeed, Katy, and thank you to you, our audience, for taking part in this presentation. So from Katy, from myself, and all the team here at the Change in Education Group, thank you very much. Bye-bye.